And the second one is similar, item 9.
Now we can ask questions, I guess.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yes. So Harrison Hunt and then Councillor Goff.
So, staff, this is for the
Staff,
next
you can
item.
come back
Apologies,
to the table,
Gary.
please.
Might need just.
Yeah.
So this is the alcohol ban request for North Richmond, North Avon Road, North Richmond.
And I can generalise it now, but what I'm understanding within the resolutions here is that we're requesting that staff investigate an alcohol ban instead of actually implementing it. Am I correct in thinking that?
Sorry, what was the question?
So with the resolution here, it says that staff are investigating an alcohol ban, not necessarily putting in a 6-month trial. So am I right in thinking that that's what staff are requesting?
I think it actually equates to
No,
the
that's
same
not what staff are requesting.
So you're requesting
Staff
the alternative?
Suggested continuing to work with the police and community agencies to consider these serious community matters. Then with the announcement of the community beat teams in July, they are to be deployed to areas where the public are reporting issues of concern. So this is behaviour that is illegal already. We don't need to amend the bylaw to make that change. This is illegal behaviour and it needs to be reported to the police. So the recommendation is to continue to work with the police rather than investigate an alcohol ban.
So I read the report I actually read the report, and within this, what we're seeing here is pretty much the same thing. So I'm just trying to gain an understanding of why this would actually hinder staff from working with the police on investigating potential bylaw.
Yeah, there is no hindrance. After speaking with police on Monday, with their new the beat teams that they have, they're simply saying that an alcohol ban in place, they could not do anything more than what they're doing now with their new beat sections. So the cost of trialling it and doing everything else, that's the question. And the statement on Monday was that they are at capacity with their beat sections of what they would be able to do anyway, and they're doing it. So they don't require anything extra.
Yeah. So
that's the point, really.
Okay. So what's the difference between the Woolston one and this one?
Oh, the numbers.
Okay.
The numbers, massive numbers. And the Edgeware, oh no, we're not going to make the Edgeware report, sorry. This report as well identifies that the aggressive begging seems to be the biggest thing. The numbers of alcohol incidents direct are small. It's just so, it feels like we're looking at an enforcement issue that doesn't deal directly with the issue. That's what it feels like.
Okay, cool.
And that's what police feel it is as well.
Yeah.
So basically, I read these two resolutions for Edgeware and Richmond as being the same. So investigating an alcohol ban actually is going through that 6-month period of working with external agencies and reporting back and letting council know whether those boxes for the LGA have been ticked. Regardless of the police capability to resource that, a ban is a ban and it's a deterrent, and that's a decision that we would make. And that's the same for Edgeware Village. Am I correct there?
In terms of our capability, we have issues as well over the next 6 months with doing a significant amount of work on that. We've got, this work would fall on the bylaws team that have 3 bylaws reviews to complete by the end of this council term. They need to be finished within the council term, so we would need to deprioritise other work in order to do this. And what we're saying is at the moment the data doesn't indicate that we've met the threshold for an alcohol ban. There has to be a serious level of crime and disorder as a result of alcohol in order to put in place a ban. So what we're saying is doesn't appear that threshold has been met. These are serious issues. They should be reported to the police, but we're suggesting at the moment that it doesn't meet the threshold for an alcohol ban. So we're proposing a different approach.
Right, Councillor Goff.
Yeah, just following on from that. So although police don't have the resource necessary to police the alcohol ban, in the event that police were there, even for an unrelated matter, would an alcohol ban provide them an option at their disposal, at least? An additional option which doesn't exist?
I guess there would be an additional option, but probably
What they do doesn't change very
no.
much, does it?
And the laws that they have, they're able to deal with most things anyway.
Yes.
I think the concern for me was that the police are the ones who enforce this, and when I hear from them that they're doing everything they can do now without a liquor ban, that it wouldn't add to it. That's all I'm trying to explain.
I guess though the point being, if someone is there with an open RTD or something like that,
Yep.
and there happens to be a police presence in the area, they can't do anything about it. However,
At this point, but if an alcohol ban were in place, then they could say, look, at least you could move them along. No, think that clarifies it. But I hear what you're saying and appreciate it as well. So,
Okay, Councillor Templeton.
I mean, given that the last one's already passed and that we've still got this one here, if this did pass and it just says investigate, you could still be coming back to us in 6 months' time and just saying, hey, listen, we looked at it, we're already working with police. It doesn't. Not only does it not tick the boxes, but actually it's not recommended. I mean, and these are the things that we think will work better. And we've been working on some of those already. Does that, I mean, what does it take away from other work if we do this when it looks like it's not likely to be a goer anyway?
So there is generally some work involved in the investigation. We generally conduct surveys, go and talk to businesses, that sort of thing. So there is some work involved in putting together, certainly in putting together recommendations on an alcohol ban.
So for me, like, the fact that there'll be some investigations and some surveys to see what the actual issues are actually sounds quite a useful way for the community to see what the issues are anyway. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Like, I think that that's the kind of work that probably needs to be done, and if this is a way to get it done, that seems to make sense. And it might be that we've done a survey, we've had a look at everything, and actually these are the issues, not the alcohol. That is helpful for the wider community, not just for decision makers, if that makes sense.
And so the question was, why could the community board team not do that work?
Sorry, what are you asking?
Well,
Why
the
did
work
the community?
that you're talking about, doing surveys and working with businesses and rather than the council bylaw team.
We get support from the community board, but it falls on our team to develop the surveys, analyse the results.
So what I'm hearing is actually that it's not that this is not a good thing to do. It's actually your team does not have the resource to do it.
Could I just clarify one thing? So, look, the staff are, late in the day, and we haven't seen the recommendations, putting forward alternative recommendations. But the council, they would need to go back to the board to consider rather than being made. So either the council goes with the recommendation the board has made, or else it goes back to the community board. It can't to consider. So they shouldn't have potentially arrived today without us knowing, without the council seeing them in the briefing.
A follow on, the report back to council with options. Surely that would be go to the community board, because if the community board,
It's council delegation to do
but it would be based on recommendations from the community board. So it should be going back to the community board with options, and then the community board could do a part A to council. But I think that this is something that does need to be dealt with at the community board level first.
Yeah,
would be the
I
normal
would
process.
expect to be able to report back monthly to the community board, both on stats from police and stats from the City Mission and other social service agencies. So that's what I would want to do.
Right.
Yeah.
But if council resolves to ask us for advice, we report back to the council.
Yeah.
But we do refer things to the community board, which is the right space where that sits, though. So we could request that staff investigate an alcohol ban, and report back to the community board with options, and then the community board would make a recommendation to council, and council would exercise its delegation to make the final decision.
and that would be useful for council, so I'd totally support
Yeah,
that.
but I mean, community board gets information, goes, actually, it's clearly not going to be a go, well, let's do something else. And they'll have
That's
had regular
right.
reporting
Except
amongst
that
it.
we're hearing there's a resource issue to do that work. Councillor Scandrick.
Yeah, thank you. Do we look at historic areas that have, because I'm in the south of Christchurch, which covers St Martin's, Beckenham, Sydenham, Summerfield, right through. We've had an alcohol ban for years, over a decade. And I just wondered if that's looked at, because I'm a great fan of alcohol bans. I think they're a fantastic thing.
Well, we look, the threshold for putting a ban in place is that there is evidence in that specific area of a high degree of crime and disorder as a result of alcohol. So we have to look at the data for that particular area.
Okay, yeah, sorry.
Councillor Coker.
So, sorry, can you explain what work is required in the investigation of an alcohol ban? And then I've got a follow-up.
Cheers.
Hi, I'm Tina Crocker, a Senior Policy Analyst in the Policy team. Basically what we're looking at is trying to meet the requirements in legislation. So the Local Government Act requires both that there's evidence of a high level of crime and disorder in the area that's related to alcohol, and that it's a proportionate response. And we have to also look at the rights assessment. So the particular powers in the Local Government Act also require us to look at whether the rights and freedoms of people are appropriately or unduly restricted, and that feeds into the normal Section 155 assessment that we do for bylaws that looks at whether a bylaw is the most appropriate tool to address the identified issue. So in this case, we need to look at whether the alcohol consumption in public places is the issue that needs to be dealt with, or whether it's the antisocial behaviour that's happening, the aggressive begging that's having impacts on business and the community and things. So we need to look at whether the council is using its regulatory powers appropriately. That's what the assessment requires. It's a legal assessment.
Okay, so I've got two follow-ups. Yep. So one is, so what data do you use? Is it purely from the police or is it other data?
It's a mixture of different information. So the Act itself says evidence of a high level of crime and disorder related to alcohol in the area, and I'm repeating that, but I'm repeating it because that's what is in the Act, and how we meet that is a matter for the council. So the council has to be satisfied that that has been met. Mm-hmm. So that's a mixture often of police data as a primary bit of information, but we also of course go on sort of anecdotal and other evidence provided by the community. But in a lot of these cases, there's a lot of activities that are happening that aren't necessarily directly to do with people drinking in public. There's absolutely crime and disorder happening, and there's a lot of antisocial activities happening, but the question for us in terms of using this particular bylaw is whether it relates to alcohol consumption in public places.
Okay, and then this is probably just for whoever wrote the recommendations for the community board at the time, because it looks like the board was asked to request staff to have a 6-month trial to work with external agencies to address those social issues. So would that, if we were to pass this part A, would that part happen as well or not?
I think the board's already
It's
agreed
happening
to
already.
It's happening already.
It's already in place. Yep.
Yeah. So a lot of the causes of these impacts that are happening are quite complex, and that's working across those social agencies and police and others, impacts of, displaced people and homelessness and emergency housing and other issues that are happening in the area are leading to the aggressive begging and other things. So it's working at the base level of those causes and seeing if we can help improve things from those matters rather than moving to a criminalising an activity, which is what the bylaw would do.
So why have you removed that number 2 from the recommendation?
I'm not sure who's made those changes.
Okay. Is that it? Councillor Coker?
Yeah, I guess with that 6-month trial, like if it's already happening, I guess what I'm wanting to know is there a point in time when there's a plan on bringing this information back to the board? There must be, I presume. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's only just started in the last 2 or 3 weeks since the beat section started and the city mission been going in there.
Okay.
But more than happy to be reporting back through the governance managers through the report monthly on what those figures are.
Yeah.
Councillor Harrison-Hunt?
Kia ora. Thanks, Tina, for that. I just wanted to understand the difference in resourcing in comparison to the monthly reports, which also seems resource intensive, in comparison to bringing back your report with investigating options on what's put into this resolution today. Can you sort of talk to us about what that might look like in comparison to the different reporting lines?
The monthly reports is reporting back police data, isn't it, on incidents?
So it's the
and-
community
Yeah.
level information about what's
Yeah.
happening
Yeah,
and how that non-regulatory stuff is working, whereas the investigation requires more resources because we have to document all of that information that's required to meet those thresholds under the Act. So this is a law-making process is the main thing to get your head around. So when you're talking about anything to do with the bylaw, you're talking about having to meet those legislative thresholds and have good documentation in place that justify it. So that's what takes a lot of work. And then if the council want to proceed with the ban, then we'd have to do consultation as well. So it's another time and resource sink, and then hearings, and then putting it in place, and then publicising it. So it's a long process. It's not designed to be fast or easy because it's a law-making process. So we need to give due consideration to all of those issues.
And is there a time proposed for you to report back to council with options? Yeah.
Expectation of the board was in 6 months.
Okay,
Would
so
we-
if that was extended, internally extended, and it went back to the board, and the board said, yeah, cool, we can extend it because of resource issues, would staff be okay with that?
We're going to hit difficulties next year with the amount of information and activity that the council is trying to get through before the end of the term, in terms of all of the public consultation and other things that need to get sort of rolled out before we have the election period next year.
Okay.
So we're sort of mindful of that tail wave that's
Yeah, I
coming.
see what you mean.
But just to come back to that point about the community board, the reason the community board's involved is because we have a process for alcohol bans where often people would like one to be put in place, and instead of that coming directly to council and then a lot of work coming from that, because it is a lot of work, even for a simple one that's clear, there's still a lot of work involved. We've created a process where it goes to the community board first, so anyone in the public can raise it, take it to the community board, and then the community board considers whether they think there's enough public support or evidence or information for the board to recommend to the council that the council ask staff to look into it. And it's a slightly long process, but it's because it is a serious matter to put it in place, and it's a lot of resource to investigate it. So that's why that process is what it is. But the actual decision to go ahead with a ban, so a pilot or a trial ban, it still needs to meet those legislative requirements, same as a permanent one. So yeah, we just need to be mindful of that process.
I see what you mean. Last question, if that's all right, Pauline, is for Gary. No, tough one, mate.
there you go.
The key thing I'm trying to pin down from this, obviously, is the process. But would you say that this system works in a reactive nature in comparison to a proactive one, particularly around implementing bylaws and alcohol bans?
Hard to say. I thought there's community issues out there. There is major concerns. I think all we're trying to do is just work out exactly what the real issue is. And there's lots of things that have happened in the last year or so around social housing movements, alcohol outlet movements, and all sorts of things that add to this. So but we've been working on the social side of it for a wee while. We just need to record and make sure we're reporting back to the board so they can make a decision.
Okay.
We just need a little bit of time to do that.
Okay. Thanks so much.
Clarity, the resolutions that you've put up here, in addition to the noting one, that will see some work done with external agencies.
So
Yep.
these
And-
those aren't. These are the staff ones have come through via email.
Oh, okay.
They're completely different.
Well, where are they on the screen?
They're not on the screen because they just arrived by email.
Look, can we lay this one on the table till
Yeah.
next month? I think.
Yeah.
But it's too messy now.
So perhaps,
So-
perhaps refer it back to the board to consider this advice. Yeah.
Well, we've done the
That's-
previous one.
It doesn't apply.
It hasn't been moved and seconded, has it? It has not. No. All right. Well, I move that we just lay this on the table. You second it, Councillor Scandrett. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. We'll get some clarification.
Yeah.